Greetings, YouTube! Damn, it's been warm over this past week. I seem to recall that when I did my EVE Online videos, my first video, the temperature was about 30 degrees, and this time round it peaked at like 33. So it was bad. Didn't have me console, my computer, my TV on. I've been doing all my internet stuff. I've been watching BBC iPlayer on my phone. That's how bad it's been. Didn't want to have anything else on, which is why no videos have happened. Anyway, thought I'd ease myself back into my videos a little bit by looking at the rail update for Astroneer. I normally don't do cover updates for games because there's a million of them, but I thought this was interesting enough. It piqued my curiosity enough to have a look at it. So I built a little something over the course of a few hours. And yes, it did take me a few hours because I had to work out how the whole system worked first of all. So, this is my base, and it is a bit complicated, so forgive that. First of all, the rail updates, it comes with a station, and this is the rail station. It looks a little bit like a fuel service centre to me, but never mind. So, you've got the 4-pin large connector on the base, and you've got a slot over here on the front of the rail station, which is apparently for beacons. You can tell it's for beacons because it's got a beacon icon just underneath it, you see. But that's the rail station. And then you've got the rail posts. Now you've got these short rail posts, which are close to the ground, obviously. And then you've got the tall rail posts. My tongue's in the way of everything else today. Now these rail posts are actually placed and used exactly like the tethers. They activate from this little diddy thing on the backpack, and they unfurl into this whacking great huge thing. And the colour of the rail changes to red or blue, determined whether they're in range or not. Blue is at the very edge of where you can place it. When the rail turns red, it means nah, no chance. So you can put those down wherever. There we go. I was a bit worried there for a moment. Oh shit, I've broken it. But oh, it's fine. So the stations and the rails are pretty straightforward. Now the trains, again, fairly straightforward. I've got a bunch of things on top of these ones at the moment. So this is the rail car here. This is the fast rail car, and you simply put it onto the rail somewhere like so. It's got this particular engine has a smiley face on it, little smiley face. I'm just gonna stick it back on there, and the cars run in exactly the same way. They're just placed down. And they've got a 4-pin connector on the top of them, as you can see there. I've got some stuff already planted on the top of them. So they're kind of like an on-rails small, what are they called? Not buggy, the other thing. The rover. It's kind of like a medium rover on rails. Trying to get the camera to go to the right zoom level. Now, the engine, you just use the triggers forwards and backwards to make it go forwards and backwards. And yes, it is bloody quick, but this is because this is the quick engine. This is the coal engine. It moves very fast. Now, if you want to load up on cargo, I've cheated a little bit and I'm using an auto arm, but obviously you can load the train up however you want. This is just because I'm lazy. So, putting the cargo on the train. I believe there's 8 units of it. And just wait for this to finish. And that is it. So once you've loaded the train up, you just, again, use the triggers because the engine's facing one way. You reverse. And there we go. Now, the canister on the train is programmed to spit things out, and the station can be ordered to either load or unload the cars automatically, or you can just have it ignore the feature. So at the moment the station is in unload mode, which is why all those materials have come off of the train and the auto arm has stored them in this canister over here. So you can use all these storage systems together, which is what you'd expect from Astroneer. The whole system is designed to be modular. I have noticed that there's a teensy bit of conflict sometimes, probably because the canister has an input and an output, and the station has an input and an output. But the canister is contained within the train, and the train is linked to the station. It's sort of like the canister is in the train, which is in the station. It's like a container in a container in a container. So sometimes the inputs and outputs don't quite line up with each other, and sometimes it won't unload necessarily when you think it should. I think the station loading and unloading works when the train pulls into the station. Otherwise it ignores what's happening. So yeah, you just have to wrangle it a little bit, and obviously if you've got a station back at your base, you're going to want to unload stuff. So I should imagine that you can just put it into unload mode and leave it there. Station stop mode. You can stop all cars, you can stop uncalled cars, in other words stop any car that you're in control of, or just disable the stop. At the moment I've got it set to stop everything because it's easier. And yeah, so if I just disable the output for a moment and swap the arm around, and now enable the output, so the auto arm does the opposite. If I set the resource canister to suck items up, you'll notice that the items are going onto the station and are going straight onto the canister, and this is what I was saying before. The programming of the station, sometimes it clashes with the canister. The train is in unload mode, and yet it's loading the train no problem, because the canister is in load mode. It's weird. You have to frig around with it. But yeah. So it's nice to know you have options though. And you can do whatever. I mean, I've just gone back that way, but there was really no point to that. So, pretty straightforward stuff. The railway posts can be ordered to summon the nearest car. The rail posts are cheaper to make in terms of resources than the station is, obviously, because the station is bigger. But you can call the nearest car from any rail post. You do not need the station. The station is only if you want it to automatically unload stuff, I think, but it's not essential. Another thing the station can do is, as I say, you can summon the nearest car. Not a problem. I just heard it playing that tune. I've never even noticed it played a tune before. Whoa, that was weird. Anyway, another little feature that the rail stations have are these things. On either side of the station, it's got two of these. If I can get the camera in the right place. It's got one of these target pins, which is what you typically see on like power sensors or count sensors, that kind of thing. And this allows you to connect with something else. These target pins, these appear to activate whenever something passes that particular point on the station. So if something pulls into the station or passes that point in the station, it triggers these outputs. Whoops. And both sides of the station has one of these. So there's one on either end. And they are counted as two discrete points. It's not like the station has a midpoint where they're both triggered. No, it triggers it at both ends. But then these pins on the other side, these outer pins are outputs. But these pins are inputs. There's one here and one at the other end. And I was kind of thinking to myself, what the hell are these for? And it took me a while to figure out what they were for. So if I head on back to my regular station, you can see that I've attached a button repeater, which is basically just a switch. And if I activate it, it sends the train off. And you can, as I say, call the train back to the station, and I've attached a button to the other input, and it sends the train in the other direction. So the station, the posts will let you call the train to that location, but the station will let you call the train in and send it in whichever way you want, which is quite snazzy. I was a bit worried that in order to send a train back to your base, you'd have to create a whole line of switches all the way along the rail line, you know, to connect your button all the way back to the station. But no, the stations appear to have it just built into them, which is kind of snazzy. You'd need a station at the underground location to send stuff back, but it's nice to know that they thought of that. Yeah, so train, you can manually control it. You've got all these railway lines, and there are junctions. They actually thought of that as well, and the junctions are three-way, and you can just see one there. And as you can see, you can come here, stop trying to be clever. You can switch the junctions between whichever of the three inputs you want. As I say, it is a three-way junction, is this. Now, there are switch points that you can use on the junction. If you activate these two on the corners, it appears to activate that particular link, like so. And if I activate it again, come here, stop moving. If I activate it again, you can see it doesn't change, it just activates that corner. So you would think that this switch would activate the straight line. But no, this one cycles between them. It's a bit weird, or at least I thought it was a bit weird, was that. Anyhow, again, options. Nice to know. So, you can obviously build a station. I've programmed that station to not bother stopping me. You can see there's a beacon on there as well, so you can see the station for a while. There's the other beacon. But you can, of course, put a station underground. And you can put the rail links underground, and you can put the rail links on the wall, so you can create your own custom roller coaster if you want, which is pretty snazzy. There's all sorts of stuff, and it's worth mentioning as well that the railway lines incorporate both oxygen and power as well. So you've got the oxygen and power lines that you can draw from. They'll transmit the whole kit and caboodle. They're part of your base structures, which is nice. What else do I want to? There was definitely some other stuff. One or two other things. Whee! That never gets old. In the distant past, obviously, you were limited in what you could do when the game first came out. But if you look at the train carriage here, it tells you how much power it draws when it's active. And this particular engine draws 3 power. The carriages draw 1 power apiece. So you do have to bear that in mind. And the other thing is it tells you the length of the train that you can have. And this is something the game did not do when I first got this game, when it first came out. It didn't tell you how long your trains could be, because you could create land trains using the rovers. And apparently your rover train length can be 4. You can have 4 of them in a line, but the trains you can have 6. So again, it's nice to have that information these days. If I switch the junction so that it directs me this way, because I've created more than one line because it's a junction, because I'm showing it off. It comes all the way back round to my base almost, but that's irrelevant. Now, the junction is currently pointed towards the underground, not back towards my base. So the railway is pointing basically to the underground section, but not over here to where the rest of my base is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come across to this railway station, and bearing in mind the railway is pointed in the other direction, call train. The train is still visible there, that's just a graphics glitch. It's the system not quite keeping up with it. The train moves out of range and then it takes a while for it to delete the image of it. It's a mirage. And here comes the train. Even though the railway was pointing in the other direction, the junction automatically switched to get the train here. So you don't even have to make sure the junction is pointed in the right direction, which is brilliant. Oh, what else? I can't help but feel there was something else I wanted to mention. Must have been really important if I can't remember. I think I've covered all the main stuff though. I'll remember what it was as soon as I turn the video off. It'll be something important. But yeah, make sure that you can pass straight through the railway lines, by the way. They're not solid. The posts are solid, but they work off the exact same principle as the, as I say, as the tethers. You just have to make sure you get the direction right, because if you pick one of these up, oops, there's a car on the next line, so it won't let you pick it up, which is sensible. But if you pick it up, then you can obviously mess around with the rotation, whereas the tethers, you don't have to bother with any of that stuff. But you can see how it works. Yeah. It's pretty good, is this. The system, it seems like to me they thought of everything. The only little wrinkle for me is the junction, where it's got like those 3 inputs and it's sort of weird in which junctions it activates. But apart from that, I'm pretty taken with this. Now the railway junctions require copper, quartz and titanium. So the railway stations, did I say junction? I meant station, whatever I said. So it requires titanium, so you do have to go to a different planet for that. And they're printed from the large printer, by the way. The medium printer, no, the small printer, that's how little time I've spent with this, prints the rail posts and the tall rail posts and the junctions. And they're all printed in bundles. As I say, it's just like the tether system. So those are aluminium or aluminium and resin. So you'll be able to put this rail system together fairly easily on the first planet, I should imagine. The medium printer is the one that prints the engine. So resin, aluminium, copper for the engine, resin and aluminium for the cars. The rail engine is the standard car, which is the slow one. But the coal is the fast one. Which is weird because it seems to, it uses exactly the same amount of power, uses exactly the same resources to make it. Provides 2 small slots and oxygen. So, yeah. One of them has a smiley face on it. As far as I can tell, that's the only difference between them. But yeah, I'm quite taken with the railway system. And it's nice to see that most of it uses simple resources that you can use on the first planet. I've remembered! I'm babbling because I'm trying to remember what it was that I wanted to mention. I've remembered what it was. I've just forgotten again. I shouldn't have started talking. Oh yes, I've just remembered again. Sorry. When you put down these rail posts, if there's a piece of the terrain near the post, it will tunnel the terrain out. It'll make a gap big enough to admit the train and the rail, which is kind of cool. You just need to remember that if there are any resources in that part of the tunnel, if you're putting these things underground, the resources will be deleted when you put the post in. So if there's resources in the way of your railway line, mine the resources out before you put the line in, otherwise you'll lose them. So that's what I wanted to tell you. That's the last thing. I've definitely run out of things to say now. Okay, I'm going to stop wittering now, but yeah, nice little video, which has not been so little. I'm getting on towards 20 minutes. I'm going to shut up now. Like, dislike, comment, subscribe and share, all that jazz. See you next time.